We have some new New York Giants head coaching rumors rising to the surface. And that's why we're doing a second video today. And if you're a Brian Daboll fan, you might want to close your eyes and not pay attention because it does not sound good for him being the next New York Giants head coach. But I want to hear what all of you have to say. Pick one to hire. Type BD for Brian Daboll, type BF for Brian Flores, or type DQ for Dan Quinn. What's going on, guys? You are watching New York Giants Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green, and Giants head coach rumors are heating up. Following the introductory press conference for Joe Schoen, reports came out that said the Giants, they could be hiring their next head coach as early as this Saturday. They have some more interviews to get to. Patrick Graham, he interviewed earlier today. Leslie Frazier, he's going to get his second interview this Friday. And then it is decision time to find the Joe Judge replacement and the next head coach for the New York Giants. But the reason for today's video is the bombshell report that Pat Leonard dropped on Twitter this evening. He said this: several league sources believe Bills offensive coordinator Brian Daboll is the favorite to be the Miami Dolphins' next head coach. If Daboll takes that job, Dan Quinn and Brian Flores are the leading contenders to be the Giants' next head coach to me. NYG's done significant homework on both, that being Quinn and Brian Flores. This is upsetting for me because Brian Daboll is my number one head coach choice. I like the ties that he has to Joe Schoen, considering they both are coming from Buffalo. I want my GM and my head coach to be in lockstep, to be in agreement, to have a similar wavelength of thinking, and I think Daboll and Joe Schoen do that. Daboll's an aggressive play caller. Joe Schoen talked today about he wants a head coach that is a security blanket for his quarterback and someone that knows when to go for it on fourth down. I really want Daboll to be this guy. I'd be in shambles if Brian Daboll chose the Miami Dolphins head coaching job over the New York Football Giants. This would be the second time in the past two head coach cycles that the Giants' current or top head coach, being Matt Rule, chooses the Carolina Panthers over the New York Giants, and then now it would be Brian Daboll choosing the Miami Dolphins over the New York Football Giants. I'd be in shambles, but I don't think it is a completely official. But according to reports, it sounds like Daboll is the favorite at the moment to be the next Dolphins head coach. But remember 2 days ago, reports came out from Ralph Vacchiano that Brian Daboll was the favorite to be the next New York Giants head coach. So stuff like this is very fluent and can change out of instance in any second of the day. The thing that I think may have scared away Brian Daboll just a little bit is when Joe Schoen and John Mara today at the press conference voiced their support of Daniel Jones. They essentially said they're going to run it back for the 2022 NFL season with Daniel Jones. Did that support of DJ push away and scare away Brian Daboll? Brian Daboll, he worked with Tua at the University of Alabama. Maybe he thinks Tua is a better quarterback and has a higher chance of being a franchise quarterback than Daniel Jones. I mean, if you're a head coach and you're not all the way bought in on the quarterback, and that being Daniel Jones, the neck injury, the fifth-year option, who knows what's going to happen then? That could be a cause for concern, and that may be why Brian Daboll is pushing away from the New York Giants job. For me, Daboll is the perfect hire. We'll get to that in just a quick second, but I want to know what you guys have to say. Like this video if you want the Giants to hire Brian Daboll. We've done a couple videos in the past talking about Daboll, and a lot of you in the comments section have lit it up by saying he is your number one candidate. So if you want the Giants to hire him, like this video. And when the Giants hire their next head coach, whether that's this Saturday or early next week, or maybe it's tomorrow, or maybe it's Tuesday, I think it's going to be soon. We'll be breaking it down on this channel, youtube.com/NYGiantsTV. All we do here on this channel is react to breaking news, rumors, trade rumors. The NFL draft's around the corner. The Giants, they have 6 picks in the top 110, so our draft coverage will be hot and ready and better than any Giants YouTube channel out there. So if this sounds like a place for you and you want to join the fam, go down and hit that big red button. The confirmed Giants head coach interviews, there are 6 guys. Brian Daboll, he was the first to get an interview, and he was the first person to get a second interview. Also, Leslie Frazier, a former co-worker of Joe Schoen, who when he was the assistant general manager for the Buffalo Bills, now the current defensive coordinator. If you watch the final 13 seconds of the AFC divisional round between the Chiefs and the Bills, you might not be that high on Leslie Frazier. I know I'm not. And then Brian Flores, the ex-Miami Dolphins head coach. He is set to have his second interview coming up within the next couple of days. I like Flores, but he's not my number one candidate. That would be Brian Daboll. Patrick Graham, he just finished up his interview to be the Giants head coach. And Dan Quinn, like reports are coming out, he is at the top of the list to be the next Giants head coach, if it is not Brian Daboll. And then Lou Anarumo, the Cincinnati defensive coordinator. He has ties to Joe Schoen. They spent 6 years together back when Schoen was with the Miami Dolphins. This was probably the most random, I guess you could say, head coach interview. Not a lot of people know a lot about him. I don't expect him to be the head coach, but we'll get to a report that I think is very, very important for you to know about Lou. The thing that upsets me about this Brian Daboll news is Joe Schoen preaches stability. And how does that tie in with Brian Daboll? This is how. How can you have stability with a revolving door at OC? What does that mean, Marshall? What if the Giants, they hire Brian Flores and they get their offensive coordinator? So what if the Giants have a great offense and that offensive coordinator gets plucked to be a head coach of a future NFL team? How many times have we seen that? That the hot offensive coordinator guy that gets offense back on track gets a head coaching job like that? That's my concern. That's why I want this head coach to be an offensive play caller, an offensive mind, because right now in the NFL, the offense is king. The 4 teams left in the NFL playoffs competing for a Super Bowl berth, they are all the offensive play callers for their team. Zach Taylor, he calls the plays for the Cincinnati Bengals, and so does Andy Reid for the Chiefs, so does Kyle Shanahan for the 49ers, and so does Sean McVay for the Los Angeles Rams. I think it is easier to find a defensive coordinator than an offensive coordinator in the National Football League, because once you find that offensive coordinator, every team is going to call searching and calling for them to be their next head coach. More Pat Leonard news to get to. He said this and followed up his earlier tweet by saying this. Last thing I'll add, Frazier and Bengals Lou Anarumo have both worked with Joe Schoen, know each other well. And Schoen mentioned alignment as an important piece of the hire today. So those are still names in this race. But so far, info points to Quinn and Flores as the favorites. Stay tuned. I'm hoping if it's not Daboll, it's Flores or it's Quinn. Because, guys, I'm typing my no in the comments for this one, and I want you to do the same. Type Y for yes or type N for no. Do you want the Giants to hire Leslie Frazier or Lou Anarumo? Anarumo was the 2018 defensive back coach for the Giants, so he's been here, he's been in the building, but this is a guy that hasn't been a head coach before, and the only head coach interview he's gotten in this cycle is with the New York Giants. But let me know, do you want Leslie or Lou to be the next Giants head coach? Type Y for yes or type N for no. And if you're looking to start betting on the NFL playoffs or the NBA season, or you want to lay some cheddar down on the Knicks, do it, or the next head coaching hires, BetUS has all of these odds on their sportsbook, and they are today's proud sportsbook partner of today's show. All you got to do is go to chatsports.com/bet and plug in the promo code CHAT125. When you do those 2 steps and you plug in $100 into your account, they will match that with a 125% deposit bonus. So you'll have $225 in your account to bet with. You can bet on the games this weekend. You can bet on whatever, because BetUS, they have games for you to bet on every possible sport. One more time, chatsports.com/bet, promo code CHAT125. Missing out on Brian Daboll would be disappointing. He was the first guy to get an interview. He was the first guy to get a second interview. And this whole time, since Joe Schoen has been hired, he was the leader in the race of being the next Giants head coach. And I think he is the perfect guy for that job. He got the most out of Josh Allen. And I'm not saying he would turn Daniel Jones into Josh Allen, but I think he would be able to put Daniel Jones in the most effective position to be successful. I think he could build this offense around Daniel Jones to be a good one. I wouldn't hate Dan Quinn or Brian Flores. They are my second and third options of the candidates that have been interviewed. I wouldn't hate it, but they're not my top choices. I've voiced so far that I want an offensive coach, but if you want to go a defensive route, these are the top 2 guys at their position. so I would not hate it. But once the Giants, they hire a head coach, we'll be breaking it down this channel, and I will be tweeting it out on my Twitter account at @MarshallGreen_. So if you're looking for more Giants people to follow on Twitter, I'm your guy. Hit me up at @MarshallGreen_.